Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by Clean Cut Meals. Clean Cut Meals offer a professional meal prep service and have various plans to suit all different needs and levels of fitness, whether you're starting your fitness journey, prepping for a show or a shoot, or play high-level sport. Clean Cut Meals are freaking awesome. I use them for the entire preparation from Marathon to Sabla last April and have been using them ever since. They're just absolutely killer for saving time. Their food is awesome and tasty. I've completely gone off script, but I love the service they provide, and there's someone I'm going to be using for a long time in the future. The guys deliver nationally, so no matter where you are in the country, they can deliver. If you want to get on board and spend the time that you save shopping, prepping, cooking, and cleaning on the other things that you love, just visit www.cleancutmeals.ie to make an order, or if you have any questions, drop the guys an email, info@cleancutmeals.ie. I'm pretty sure that is on the website cleancutmeals.ie as well, so you can just put them into Google, search them. The links are on my social medias. The guys are absolutely awesome. Also, you can use the code BKF at the checkout to get 20% off your first order. Definitely recommend checking them out, guys. Not too many meal prep services that I can recommend and put my name to, so cannot recommend Clean Cut Meals enough. So BKF at the checkout, 20% off your first order. Regardless, go check them out on www.cleancutmeals.ie. And now ready for today's episode. I hope you enjoy it.
You're listening to the Brian Keane Fitness Podcast, where Irish fitness entrepreneur Brian Keane answers your questions and interviews leaders in the world of fitness, health, mindset, and natural wellness. Come join the fun.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Brian Keane Fitness Podcast, where we talk everything fitness, nutrition and mindset to help you with your goals. Firstly, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's been listening, tagging and passing on the podcast. We've had a ridiculous amount of growth since episode 158, how to deal with negative people. I know a lot of you listening have issues either in your own life or in your immediate circle or in your environment in general through work or with other colleagues on dealing with negative people, and I got so many DMs, I got so many tags, and the amount of new people coming into the ecosystem of the podcast off the back of you telling your friends and family to listen to it. I just want to say a massive thank you. That was one of those hovering over a publish button because I got kind of into a couple of stories that I generally haven't discussed on the podcast, but again, your mess becomes your message, so I'm very, very grateful that everybody's been able to pass that on, and if you haven't listened to that episode, I highly recommend it. It's something that I think nearly everybody at some stage in their life, if not right now, definitely in the future and probably in the past, have dealt with working through, emotional vampires or negative people that kind of suck your energy, and how to identify them and give their words less thought or actually cut them off completely. So hopefully you got a lot of value from that. Today's episode is going to be a Q&A. So I've been taking most of my questions from either the website, briankeanefitness.com. If you're reading my blog, which I'm trying to put out weekly on there, or listening to the podcast via the website, all the podcasts are up there, and my GEA Lean Body podcast for any GEA players listening, they're all on the website, briankeanefitness.com. But in the contact section, there's also a place where you can send in questions. So I've been taking a couple from there, but today these are coming from Instagram. So Brian_Keane_fitness on Instagram. I'm spending an ungodly amount of time on Instagram at the minute, in DMs or replying to people and just basically consuming a lot of Instagram content because it's probably my favorite platform at the minute. So we'll jump straight into the first question, and as I said, a massive thank you again for everyone who's tagged me on their story, everyone that's reposted the podcast or left a review on iTunes. I read all of those reviews, so a massive thank you. So first question comes in from Connor J. Farrelly. I've been sick. Any tips to put on 4 kilos I lost it without it being body fat? So I'm going to answer this question from 2 angles, because when people get sick, normally one of 2 things happens. One, you can lose a lot of weight in the case of Connor here, where he's lost, say, 4 kilos because he's been sick for, 7 days, 10 days, etc. Or it goes the opposite way, where we feel like we've put on a lot of weight, or we feel we put on a lot of body fat because we feel really sick and haven't been able to train or eat properly. So there's an old Chinese proverb that if you put a wall up fast, it comes down fast. And it's normally the example I use for the flip of this, that if you get results very, very quickly through, exogenous hormones or over-the-counter fat burners or excessive restrictive under-eating or things that aren't sustainable long-term, you can get results. You can lose the body fat, or you can potentially put on the muscle, and you can transform your body in a short period of time. But as soon as you stop using the strategy or taking the supplement or consuming whatever it was you were consuming to get you to that level quickly, you tend to just go back to your metabolic set point. You go back to your baseline. You go back to what you were before you applied that strategy or, use that supplement. And that's kind of the example I normally use, is build a wall fast, it comes down fast. But on the flip side of that, for the positive, when you get sick, the exact same thing happens. If you lose 4 kilos over a 7 or 10 day period because you were sick, you don't have to do anything dramatic to get that 4 kilos back on. There's a very good chance that a lot of that is water. Some of it's muscle glycogen. Some of it is going to be glycogen in general. So if you're not pulling those carbohydrates in and you're not pulling that water in, you're going to lose weight. That's how fighters or bodybuilders or bikini girls cut weight for weight classes, is they cut out their water, they cut out their glycogen, their carbohydrate, and they're able to get their weight down. Never confuse weight with body fat. They're not the same thing. Weight is numbers on a scale. So to put on weight, you need a number to increase on a scale. To lose weight, you need a number to decrease on a scale. That doesn't take body composition into account. That doesn't take body fat into account. That's purely making a physical weight. Your body fat then is the actual fat on your body. So if your fat goes up, you have more fat on your body and your composition doesn't look as good. When you get sick, that's what normally happens to people, because you're not training, for some people, you're not eating that much food, so you lose the weight. For others, you're eating more food that's not on your normal nutritional strategy or your normal diet, and you can put on weight, or you can end up eating more carbohydrate and pulling more water in, or you can get yourself slightly overhydrated if you're eating a lot of sugar, or overhydrated isn't the right word. You can get yourself over excessive amount of sodium in your body from too much salt or too much sugar, which could be increasing your inflammation in your body, which can all help you retain water. So it can work the opposite way too, that you feel sick and you've been sick for 7 or 10 days and you feel like you put on a load of weight or you put on a load of body fat. You haven't. You have a compositional change of your body because of the inflammation, because of your immune system's priority to try and fix whatever's wrong, a cold or a flu, for example, and all these other external things that comes with a change of nutritional strategy, from going from eating clean and quote-unquote healthy foods to just being able to stomach whatever you can when you feel sick. Generally, when you're getting a cold, a bad cold, which is borderline flu, you're never that worried about what you're eating. You're just eating what you can. So my advice for anyone on both sides of this, whether you've lost 4 kilos or put on 4 kilos, or feel like you've put on 4 kilos, which is more likely in most cases because of the water retention and the feeling that comes with being sick, realize that it's the same as the Chinese proverb that you put a wall up fast, it comes down fast. If you've lost 4 kilos in a week, it's very likely that you'll have that 4 kilos back up within a week or two, without having to change anything drastically. I could tell you to double up your carbs or, increase your calories, and that you'll get your 4 kilos up faster, and drink a lot of water, and that will all work. But the truth is, you're going to go back to your metabolic set point, your baseline, very, very quickly after you get sick anyways. And the same goes in reverse. If you've been sick and you feel you've put on weight or put on body fat and you feel horrible, in about a week's time, you won't even realize it anymore. When I'm working with people in my BKF online program, and if someone gets sick, that's normally the first thing I'll tell them is, look, you may feel like you're going backwards for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 days because you're going to feel horrible. You've been eating really clean, you've been training with intensity, and now you're not going to get that hit. And don't worry, if you lose weight or put on weight over the next couple of days or feel like you've gone back, just take a step back, fix your immune system, get yourself back up. I've got my own strategies of increasing carbohydrates, which when you understand the benefits of each macronutrient, so protein, fats, carbohydrate, you realize that the carbohydrate's job is to give your body energy. There is no essential carbohydrate. There's essential fatty acids from fats, meaning you have to get them from a food or a supplement. Your body can't make them by itself. And there's essential amino acids from proteins. Same exact thing. You need to get them from food or supplement because your body can't make them. There's no essential carbohydrate. But what carbohydrates do is they increase your body's energy. They give you energy. And when you're sick, normally what happens is your body needs those carbohydrates and needs that energy to try and fight whatever it is that's going on. So my personal strategy, and again I adopt this differently depending on each person, but I increase carbohydrates. Normally I try and keep them clean and complex carbohydrates. It's very tempting to go down the sugar route and eat a lot of chocolate and carbs. I haven't found that helps as much, but increasing carbohydrates, staying on top of nutrition, keeping protein intake relatively moderate, as to give you some form of muscle retention and even feeling mentally okay that you may be losing weight or you may not be in the body composition that you're happy with because you're in bed sick, but protein kind of gives you that mental, well, at least I've got my protein in today, I should be okay. So I use that personally for a psychological edge, not necessarily saying that's the best from a medical standpoint. It's what I do. And then I'll add in certain supplements. I'll add in things like glutamine. Generally, most people that get sick, and if you're training at a high intensity level, there's a high chance that you're deficient in glutamine and zinc. Glutamine being an amino acid and zinc being obviously a mineral, because they're two components, an amino acid and a mineral, that get deficient in levels in trainers that train at a high intensity. So straight away, if you get sick, there's a good chance you're deficient in either of these, either amino acid or mineral. So I would supplement them back in. So I add back in glutamine, I add back in zinc, and then I'll probably use vitamin C and vitamin D as well, just for the immune support. And that can kick you back very, very quickly. So regardless of what negative effect you're having on your body composition from being sick, whether it's losing weight or putting on weight or just feeling horrible, and you want to get back to your baseline point and get back to normal immune function where you're not feeling sick anymore, they're the tips I use. And then sleeping, obviously. Nothing tops going into deep restorative sleep and sleeping off anything that's wrong with you, because your body's repairing itself while you're sleeping. So when you can factor those things in, that's why when you have a flu, they say go home and go to bed, because you're lying down, any food you're eating, you're conserving that energy to support your immune system and you're not burning through it. And then you're going into deep restorative sleep, or you're going into a higher level of sleep quality where your body can repair, or your immune system can repair. And then you're sticking on top of your nutrition where you're eating enough carbohydrate to support that health and support your body's ability to fix your immune system effectively. So hopefully that makes sense. If you are someone that's sick right now, or has got sick in the past, or gets sick in the future, and you're worrying about losing your gains or worrying about losing your progress, if fat loss is your goal, realize that control the controllables, everything that's within your control, which is making sure you're resting enough and not training through. One of the questions that comes in frequently on my social media is, I have a cold or a flu, should I train? And again, that's always going to be a judgment call. With the colds, something that's, a runny nose, I would train. If you feel like you've been hit by a bus, it's probably a sign not to train, because it'll make you 10 times worse. And it's very, very tempting to push through. But in a lot of cases, one step back gives you 2 steps forwards when you're feeling sick. So, Benjamin Franklin said it better, that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And as soon as you feel your body starting to get sick, I would take a slight step back in your training, go at 70-80%, maybe add in those supplements, glutamine, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C, increase your carbohydrates slightly, and see how your body responds. But realize that you're not going to lose any progress over those 7 to 10 days. You'll take a small step back, of course, because you're not staying in alignment with whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Your nutrition falls off, your training falls off, but it doesn't. 1 week isn't going to make or break you. Losing 4 kilos or putting on 4 kilos in a week isn't going to make or break you if it's down to something as uncontrollable as a sickness that's hit your immune system and hit your body, because it throws everything out of whack. So just be safe in the knowledge that if it is you and you are feeling sick right now and this has happened, or it happens in the future, you haven't ruined your progress. You haven't set yourself back to no end. And in the larger scale of, you know, a 6-week plan, an 8-week plan, a 12-week plan, a 24-week plan, you know, a 6-month, 1-year lifestyle that you've made a change, it's a very small portion of that. And we all get sick. It happens to nearly everybody. There are those anomalies that never get sick, but for the majority of people, we pick up some cold or flu when it's going. And you can largely control that. You know, I'm a big believer that you don't get a cold, the cold gets you, or you don't get a flu, the flu gets you. It's normally when your immune system is down that's when you're more open to getting sick, and you can control a lot of that. Again, control the controllables. If you stay on top of your nutrition, you stay on top of your sleep, you stay on top of your training, and you train but don't overtrain, and you've got good supplements, you can avoid a lot of those colds and flus that other people get because your immune system is strong. Again, living by the philosophy that you don't get a cold, the cold or flu gets you, you can control that. So hopefully that helps from a body composition point of view, and realize that if you've lost 4 kilos in a week, you don't have to change anything drastic. You're going to get to put those 4 kilos back on pretty quickly, because your body will go back to its normal metabolic set point, its normal baseline, in a very, very quick period of time, if it's due to having been sick. Okay, next one comes in from John LeBlecq. Is melatonin better than zinc and magnesium for sleep? So, if you've read my book, The Fitness Mindset, these are 3 of the sleep supplements that I recommended in there, purely because they're 3 of my favorites for different reasons. Now, I broke that section up, and zinc and magnesium are more highly recommended because melatonin is one that I would have on hand, and I'm going to expand and flesh out all 3 right now, and talk through the pros and cons. But the reason I don't have melatonin as a staple supplement for people is because melatonin is naturally produced in your body. Normally when the sun starts to go down, your body naturally produces melatonin, and when you take it exogenously, as in a supplement form, or from an external source, your body can stop producing it naturally. So I'm not a huge fan of using it as a staple unless you have something chemically imbalanced in your body where you can't produce melatonin, or you're a shift worker, someone that doesn't have the normal circadian rhythm cycles where you're getting up when other people are asleep and you're asleep when other people are awake, or if you've been traveling across different time zones. That's normally when I'm a fan of melatonin. So in terms of, is melatonin better than zinc and magnesium? The truth is, it's not a yes or no answer. If you're deficient in zinc or magnesium, those supplements are going to be better for you. And the reason supplements work so well is because they supplement what you're missing in your nutrition. So it doesn't really matter as much that, well, everybody should take this supplement, because everyone shouldn't take zinc, or everyone shouldn't take magnesium, or everyone shouldn't take creatine or amino acids or whatever supplement, because not everybody needs it. Because if you're deficient, or your lifestyle or your training strategy or your nutritional plan leaves you devoid of certain vitamins and minerals, then yes, 100% supplement them back in. So for example, one that comes in regularly is branched chain amino acids. It's one of those supplements that splits fitness people. Some people think it's literally the best thing since sliced bread, and others think it's the most expensive sweetener that you can add to water. And again, as most things, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. For people that are deficient in branched chain amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, because they're the most anabolic of amino acids and can support muscle growth and muscle retention, holding the muscle that you have, which can keep your metabolism elevated, if you're deficient and you're not consuming enough protein, then yes, they'll 100% support you with new muscle growth or retaining the muscle you have. However, if you're eating 300 grams of protein every day and you're getting all those essential amino acids, you probably don't need your branched chains. But if you're following a training program that's focused on a lot of resistance, or you have a really crazy training schedule where you're an athlete and you're going from training to the gym, and you've got multiple sessions on different days, then it's worth considering adding it back in. So context is absolutely crucial with branched chain amino acids, and context is absolutely crucial with zinc, magnesium, and melatonin. If you're deficient in zinc, then that's going to be the best supplement to add in for your sleep, because what zinc does is it allows your body to drop into a deeper sleep, drop into deeper REM sleep, which is your rapid eye movement sleep. It's your deep restorative sleep. And zinc can allow you to drop into a deeper sleep, particularly if you're deficient and you add it back in. Because when you're in that deeper sleep, you'll have higher levels of natural growth hormone. It can raise your testosterone levels. It's a precursor for testosterone, meaning that the zinc in your body can help you make more testosterone. That's why a lot of people with erectile dysfunction or low sex drive can find that an increase in zinc or supplementation in zinc can actually improve their sex drive, because it works as a precursor for testosterone. And that works for females as well, by the way. It's just that the balanced estrogen is different from guys to girls. And so if you're deficient in zinc, which a lot of athletes are, as I mentioned earlier, zinc and glutamine are the mineral and the amino acids that tend to get deficient in a lot of athletes. So if you're training at a very high intensity level and you're not consuming a lot of foods that are rich in zinc, your pumpkin seeds, your red meat, for example, there's a good chance you're going to be deficient in zinc. I respond very, very well to zinc, particularly in my mid-20s when I didn't eat a lot of pumpkin seeds or lots of different seeds, and I didn't eat any red meat. Just purely for digestible reasons, I didn't eat it. I eat way more now. So zinc worked tremendously well for me. I used to take a ZMA supplement, which is zinc and magnesium, which I'll get on to next, and vitamin B6, and it worked tremendously well for me. I used to get these really deep sleeps, and sometimes you can get really crazy dreams with supplementing with ZMA, zinc particularly. If you're deficient and you get these crazy dreams the first few nights, it's normally a sign. Again, a lot of this is anecdotal from reading different people that have used it, and I've experienced it myself, but you get these really weird dreams the first few nights of taking zinc or ZMA if you have been deficient. And it's kind of a sign that your body probably needed it. So that's just something to look out for as a footnote. The next one then is magnesium. And again, the exact same thing applies. If you're deficient in magnesium, that's going to be the best supplement for you. So I love magnesium, and it's a staple in my it's a staple in my supplement strategy. I use magnesium every night before I go to bed, purely because the way the Western world is designed now, the foods that we eat, the different things in our environment, most people are deficient in magnesium. And there's days when I'll take a lot of raw cacao, and I generally don't need the magnesium then, because raw cacao is loaded with it. I eat a lot of 85% organic dark chocolate, which again is loaded with magnesium, but I still use the supplement form to help me unwind before bed, because what magnesium does is it helps to unwind your central nervous system, so it can calm you down a little bit before bed, particularly if you get that edgy, anxious feeling before bed. And again, if you're deficient in magnesium, then that's going to be the best supplement for you. The reason ZMA works so well, and the reason that supplement is so highly recommended generally, is because most people that take it are athletes, either in the gym or runners or playing a sport. And if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have your foot in some form of physical outlet. That's, I know some people listen that don't train. They listen for the mindset stuff. But there's a good chance you're listening to this question, you train in some capacity. And zinc is normally deficient, so people add it back in, they see a difference. People add in magnesium because most people in the Western world are deficient, so people will see a difference. And then the vitamin B6 just supports those two. So zinc and magnesium, if you're deficient, are definitely going to be the best for you. Melatonin, on the other hand, then works very, very differently. Melatonin is, as I mentioned earlier, is produced when the sun starts to go down. So we have a circadian rhythm, which is slightly different for each person, but kind of falls in that space of when the sun goes down at night, our body starts to naturally produce melatonin. It's how we're evolutionary and ancestrally evolved to fall asleep effectively. So when the sun goes down, your body produces melatonin, then in theory you fall asleep, and then when the sun comes back up, your body increases cortisol. Cortisol is highest in the morning, and then you wake up. And when you supplement in melatonin, your body can stop doing that naturally. So it's not dissimilar to testosterone as a steroid. When people take, say, steroids like testosterone, what happens to guys and girls, some girls take it, but what happens with guys that take it is your body shuts down its natural production. So if you're taking an exogenous form of a hormone such as testosterone or melatonin, but again, it's in the lighter side, your body stops producing it naturally. And that's when all the problems can occur. So if you're taking melatonin as a supplement and you find that it's working really, really well, and it does work, your body can stop producing it naturally. So as soon as you stop taking it, you can find it really difficult to fall asleep. I'm a big fan of keeping melatonin on hand, and I spoke about that in the sleep section of the fitness mindset, that having melatonin on hand for when you're traveling or when you really haven't had a few good nights sleep, have it as kind of a backup plan so that you don't stop any natural production. Or if you're traveling across time zones, that can help you re-regulate your circadian rhythm slightly. You're hacking your circadian rhythm, because when you travel across time zones, one of the reasons that you get jet lag is because your body's being thrown out of whack because the circadian rhythm is upset. When your circadian rhythm gets upset, your body's internal clock of what time it is, you get jet lag. That's what happens with it. Melatonin hacks that, because when you fly east or fly west and you've gone back or forward in a time zone, your circadian rhythm is set to a normal time because of the way the sun comes up and goes down. You can hack that by adding in a melatonin supplement. So that's why I always have it with me when I travel across different time zones, because it can help reset that faster. So again, I would have it on hand. Or if you're a shift worker, I did a podcast last month for shift workers. If you work in a shift work job, either as a nurse or a doctor or in a factory or wherever it is, guards or police, where you're working night shift, definitely go check out that episode. I have all my tips for night shift workers that I use coming through my programs. But I spoke about melatonin can work there as well. When you're working night shift or you've been up all night and then you have to sleep during the day, the same thing happens. You get a disruption of melatonin. So adding that supplement in can support you. That's how you should always look at your supplements. Where can they support me? How can they serve me in what I'm missing in my daily life, either through my actual physical schedule, i.e. your job, or your supplements where you're eating certain foods and you're deficient in vitamins and minerals because you're not able to consume as much of that food. So for example, if you've cut all your red meat because you're trying to save the calories with chicken and turkey, you may want to consider adding in zinc. You may want to consider adding in vitamin B12 because you may be deficient in those vitamins and minerals because you're not consuming that food because you've been trying to save calories. That's how you should choose your supplements, because it's filling in the gaps on what's been cut out from your nutritional strategy or what's been cut out from your lifestyle. And melatonin is the exact same. If you're working night shift, definitely consider it as a staple probably in your supplement strategy. But otherwise, zinc and magnesium are going to be a better bet because you could take them long term. And again, if you're not deficient in them, they won't work. That's the beauty, the ins and outs of certain supplements. Now, there are some that if you take in excessive doses, they can be dangerous. But the truth is, if you're taking a supplement that your body doesn't need, you're just going to urinate it out normally in most cases. Again, don't ever go over the dose because of health implications, but it just becomes expensive pee for a lot of cases. So that's my thoughts on melatonin, zinc and magnesium. So anybody that is in that same boat and curious about it, hopefully that helps. Next question comes from Albeelbg83. Sorry for butchering your name. It's ABLBEJO83 on Instagram. Is it possible to get all your protein from actual food without the intake of powders? Short answer is yes, 100%. Very, very similar. And the reason I wanted to put this question in is not dissimilar to what I said about melatonin, zinc, and magnesium. It's choosing to use a protein powder, either amino acids, whey protein, vegan protein, whatever your choice is. If you're deficient in essential amino acids, or if you're deficient in amino acids and protein in general, then a powder can really support you. So if you need to get your protein intake to, 150 grams of protein or 200 grams of protein, again, it varies massively depending on weight, goals, and training program. But if you need to get your protein intake up, having a protein powder can be a really easy way to do this. Now, things like whey protein have a big advantage because it's so naturally highly occurring in branched chain amino acids. You can take it directly after training. Once your lactic acid is cleared after training, and it can flush your muscles with amino acids, which can potentially speed up your recovery. It also improves protein synthesis, so you can potentially kickstart the recovery process faster, which can lead to more muscle gain potentially. However, you definitely don't need them. If you're getting all the protein you need from the food that you're eating. So you're eating complete protein sources, for example, chicken, turkey, steak, red meat in general. There's complete and incomplete proteins. So complete proteins are meats generally, which have all the essential amino acids your body needs. Incomplete proteins then are certain foods like certain nuts, legumes, etc., that don't have all the essential amino acids that you need. They have amino acids and they have some of the essentials, but they don't have all of them. So they're quote unquote incomplete, which means you need to combine certain foods in order to get all of the essential amino acids your body needs. So my advice on this is, if you're considering using a protein powder, realize it can definitely help, and it does have its advantages. Choosing a protein powder is very much down to one that you digest well, that doesn't give you any gut discomfort, that fits into your budget, and that you enjoy the taste of. There's no excuse in 2018 not to have a protein powder you like the taste of, because some of them taste incredible nowadays. Again, brand is very much down to each person. My Protein, Flexi, Amex, Optimum Nutrition. I use Sun Warrior Vegan Protein personally, but there's loads of great brands out there. Experiment with them, find what works best for you, that fits into your budget, and that you can digest well. If it's swelling your stomach or it's giving you a lot of gas, you're probably not absorbing that protein, and worse, it's probably affecting the absorption of the vitamins and minerals that you consume around that time as well. So your feedback is normally in your digestion. So that's kind of how to choose a protein powder, but you can get it from food. I've got people that come through my BKF online program that don't use any supplements. I've got some that use all of them, and supplements will help you get there faster. They will definitely plug in any holes that you may have in your nutritional guide from being in a deficit or whatever strategy you're following, certain food that you don't like consuming, but you may need those vitamins and minerals to support muscle growth or fat loss, for example. So your supplements can definitely help, and they do bridge a gap, but you don't need them. They're supplements. They supplement what you're missing. If you're getting all the protein you need from food, you're either, through the complete sources, which is very easy to get, or even incomplete sources. So I've got people I work with on my vegan version of my program. You're combining certain foods to get all those essential amino acids, or you're using a good quality protein powder that has all those essential amino acids. For example, as I said, I use the Sun Warrior one. There's loads of other amazing vegan brands. That's just the one that I use. And largely came down to the fact that when I was designing the vegan version of my BKF online program first, I was testing it for a few weeks. So all the recipes, all the foods, and I switched to the Sun Warrior, and I found that my gut digestion was way better, and my skin started to clear up, because I was obviously having a reaction to the inflammation from the whey protein that I was consuming. So a lot of people will find when they cut back or reduce or cut out completely their whey protein, their skin can clear up, or their gut inflammation can clear up. So skin acne, in a lot of cases, is just inflammation that's showing up on the surface of your skin, and that's what happened with me. So a lot of people will find that similar as well, so that's why I made the switch. But you can definitely get all the protein you need from actual food, and I would actually highly recommend it. I think if you have the option, if my option was to get all my protein from food or all my protein from powders, it would be a no-brainer. Every day of the week, I would choose the food option. Again, it's the synthesis and the combination that really proves to support people and help, because you may not be able to get all the protein you need from food. You may not be able to get a solid meal after training, and you want to kickstart that protein synthesis, and you want to kickstart that recovery process of flushing your muscles with amino acids directly post-workout. So that's where supplements can come in really handy. That's where a powder can come in really useful. So use it. Again, use it as a tool, because it may support you, but you definitely don't need it, and there's nobody really that needs it. But it can help you move you to the next level if it is something that you're deficient in, and supports you and fits into your lifestyle and schedule, because you're on the go and you need a protein powder directly after training, or you need to have a shake during the day with some oats or some almonds to bump up your protein. That's where it can help. So hopefully that helps and that supports you. Okay, next question comes in from Noggin Sport 1. Is there a positive link between mental health and exercise? Okay, so I wanted to answer this one because mental health is something that I talk about a little bit on the podcast, and I talk about a little bit on my social media. And for those of you that are long-time listeners, you know my own history with it. Having that mild depression coming through my teenage years from being bullied and lots of excessive things that happened to me, and then my constant state of anxiety trying to deal with that in my 20s, that type A personality that you're constantly looking to the future that can lead to anxious states, which from the outside can be a very positive thing because you are going from goal to goal and achieving what quote unquote looks like success to the outside world. But it's a case of, sometimes outward success and inner turmoil in your own mind. And that's how I've lived a lot in my 20s. I'm fortunate now that I've come to grasp with a lot of that. But I'm going to say something a little bit controversial here. And I probably shouldn't be saying it on the podcast because it's recorded and it's going to go up there and it's out there. But I don't filter anything. I personally think, with the exception of, I think 5 or 10% of the population who have an actual physiological, chemical imbalance in their brain, I think a lot of people who have mental health issues comes down to not having the right lifestyle that supports the fact that they have issues. And I feel confident in speaking on this as someone that's lived it and someone that's been through it and someone that's been on the downward turmoil of having felt depressed and just not wanting to be here anymore, and having felt the anxiety of feeling like you've been encased in a vice and that you're nearly paralyzed by fear of what might happen. And as someone that's came through that and lived through that, and your mess becomes your message, I feel somewhat qualified to speak on it, controversial as it may be. And I personally think it's down to lifestyle choices. And I'm going to use myself because I would never put words in other people's mouths, and I would never have an opinion on someone else's life unless I was directly asked and I felt I could positively impact it in a direct way. But for me, any mental health issues that came from me normally came down to one of three things. One, it was down to not looking after myself physically or overtraining, trying to numb out from the pain of what was going on in my life. Two, not looking after my nutrition and eating the right foods and eating certain sweeteners and processed foods and ingredients that were just sending me into a ridiculously anxious state. And three, lifestyle choices of being around the wrong fucking people. I spoke in the episode at the top of this episode, about 158, about dealing with negative people. And there's a reason it's probably becoming one of my most downloaded episodes. And that's down to the fact that everybody has to deal with it. Either their family, their mum, their dad, their brother, their sister, their cousins, their immediate circle, people in their work life, people they see every day. That's the stuff that will fuck up your mental health, is being around negative shit, being around people and consuming things that fucking drain your positive energy, that make you feel worse. Watching things, this is one of my biggest pet peeves, is when you're consuming and being around certain people. If you're watching the fucking news every day or reading the newspaper, that is literally hardwired to show you the bad things that are going on in the world, because you have to, the news on television or on your phone or a physical paper or whatever device you consume it on, they work and are supported by clicks, by views, by likes. If you don't catch it and read it, they can't keep going. So they have to sensationalize everything. And normally we're hardwired evolutionary to spot negative things. It's something that kept you alive thousands of years ago. If you were in ancestral times and walking through the jungle and you saw something rustling in the bush, you were better to see something negative there, because if that was a saber-toothed tiger and you didn't run away, you were fucking gone. And then you didn't pass on your genes, and you're just the automatic thought processes and physiological responses we have to things are just things that are passed on through genes through thousands and thousands of years. That way of seeing negative things, that when you drive past a car crash and can't stop looking, you're hardwired to see those things because they kept you alive thousands of years ago. Now they just program your mind into all the negative shit that's going on in the world. That can fuck up your mental health. Watching that shit every day, or surrounding yourself with people who are always giving out about their life, about their job, about their kids, about the way the fucking world is, realizing that they're always playing the victim and it's always someone else's fault. The one fucking thing I can tell you right now that is going to support anybody here that has any mental health issues or anyone that's around them is take ownership of the fucking things that are going on in your head, and take ownership of the way that you choose to see the world, and take ownership of the things you put into your mind. If you don't program your mind will be programmed. This is a fucking fact. People have shown it time and time again that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Your thoughts become the average of the thoughts you consume most of the day. What you think about, you become. And if you're consuming negative people, and if you're consuming negative things, and if you're consuming things that are making a mess of your mental health, you're going to have negative mental health. Your entire thought process is going to be screwed up. I'm speaking as someone that came out the other side. When you cut out all that negative shit and you control the controllables, the things you put into your mind, the people you follow, the books that you read, and you start seeing the world in a different way, and you start surrounding yourself with other people who are more positive and see the brighter side of things and see the way the world can be and see the way they want the world to be. Nothing is good or bad, and thinking makes it so. William Shakespeare said it. It's a Stoic philosophy that everything we see is an opinion, everything we see is a perspective. It's how we choose to see it. Mental health is the same. You can take the victim mentality, and I fucking did this. You can take the victim mentality where, I feel horrible, I feel depressed, this person did me wrong, I got fired from this job, I have no money, and you can play the victim, and it's lovely. It's really nice to have people go, oh yeah, that girl's a dickhead for cheating on you, or that guy's a dickhead for cheating on you. Yeah, you can play the victim, and it's really nice, but it doesn't get you fucking anywhere. It just means that you end up staying the victim and nothing changes. There's an old saying that nothing changes if nothing changes. You need to change the way you see things. I went through a large part of my life, and you can hear the volume in my voice because I'm speaking to myself from years back. You can go through your whole life playing a victim. You can go through your whole life playing woe's me, that the fucking world did me wrong, or fucking daddy or mommy didn't love me, or fucking somebody left that was close to me, or something happened external. It's all how you choose to see it. For me, mental health, and I am going to come back to the question on exercise, as important as physical things are like exercise, a lot of mental health issues, from personal experience, from speaking purely, and again, never putting words in anyone else's mouth, from my own personal experience, it comes from fucking owning that. Owning the fact that this is the way you think and you need to change it. When you own something, you can control it, and when you control it, you can change it. And dealing with mental health for 95% of people is fixing your fucking life. It's fixing the things you don't like. We really overcomplicate life. Make a list of the things that make you happy. Do more of that. Make a list of the things and people that make you unhappy. Do less of that and spend less time with those people. It's that fucking simple. It's not easy because it can be really, really difficult, but it's that simple. If you're struggling with mental health, and if you're struggling with a victim mentality, as someone that came out the other side, you need to fucking own that. As someone that's gone through a lot of my life not knowing what I want, and when you don't know what you want, you'll take whatever you get. And not knowing what I want, when I got very specific and very monomaniacal on what I wanted to achieve, a lot of that mental health dissipated. And every time that I focus on myself, and I've spoken on previous episodes that my inner peace, that my mental chatter and my comparison to other people escalates when I focus on what other people are doing. And whatever you focus on will expand. Whatever you give energy to will expand. And my mental health issues expanded when I was focusing on other people and what they were doing and comparing myself to them and what they were trying to achieve. Your page 1 is completely different to somebody else's page 20. You don't know what happened in those other 19 pages that got them there. And you comparing yourself to where they are, and you haven't seen anything underneath the iceberg, you only see the tip. It's fucking stupid, because you can't quantify that. You've no idea what it took to get them there, yet you're comparing yourself to them, the way they look, the money they have, the job that they have, the boyfriend, girlfriend, car, house, whatever it is, the external things that they have that you quote unquote have deemed successful. That's a terrible way to go through life. Compare yourself about where you were. When you focus on that, and when you take the steps needed to make yourself a stronger version of yourself, and you can honestly answer the question that you're better than you were yesterday, You're better than you were a week ago. You're better than you were a month ago. And by God, you're fucking better than you were a year ago. When you can answer those questions, that gives you confidence. That gives you focus. And that gives a positive feedback loop that you're doing the right things you need to do to achieve the things you need to achieve and continuously move forward with your mental health. And I think it's relative. I think the term mental health gets thrown around a lot. I think if you have depression or you have anxiety or you have mild states of unsureness or uncertainty, sometimes it can get labeled with mental health. Put whatever label you want on it. It's subjective to each person. They're only words. But words are powerful if you don't use them to support you and where you want to go and that inner self-talk that you feed. So make sure that you don't put yourself into a victim label and constantly blame the world for what's going on, because you can control a lot of that. And when you control it, you own it. And when you own it, you can change it. So my take home here is exercise is important. Yeah, it 100% helps. It will shut off the part of your brain that makes you overthink. It can give you that little bit of transient hyperfrontality, that switching off of your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that can make you overthink things, which normally puts you into a state of anxiety. Yeah, it can do that. Mindfulness can do that. Meditation can do that. Running, exercise in general can do that. So it can all help. But it's not what helped me. It supports me and it's a tool. What helped me was taking control of the victim mentality and owning that, and decided I wasn't going to live my life like this anymore. That I wasn't going to be a victim. I wasn't going to blame the world. I wasn't going to blame my family. I wasn't going to blame anybody. It was on fucking me to change things. And when I made that choice, things started to change. If nothing changes, nothing changes. You need to make the changes in your environment. You need to make the changes in the people around you. You need to make the changes in the way you see it if you're struggling in that area of your life, because it's on you. And when you own it, you control it. And it's all about controlling the way you see it and then changing it, and changing it for the better. When I started to focus on myself, and I started to focus on the things that made me happy, and I started to focus on my own inner peace and not going against my internal compass and putting my ladder against the wrong wall, knowing that I was climbing the ladder against the wrong wall. And there's a thought process that when you stop chasing the wrong things, you give the right things a chance to catch up. When you get very clear on what it is that you want in your health, in your wealth, in your relationships, in your fulfillment, and what you want to do with your life in general, when you get very clear and asking those questions. One of my mentors used to say to me that smart people have great answers and geniuses have great questions. When you start to ask better questions about what makes me happy, what do I want to achieve, where do I want to be, how do I want to serve the world, how do I want to show up and be a better person, a better son, a better dad. When you ask those questions, that's what your brain starts to focus on. And whatever your belief system is, your law of attraction, your power of intention, your cognitive neuroscience, the reticular activation system, the part of your brain that tells you what to focus on. It doesn't matter what your belief system is. Whatever you give focus to will expand. And when you start to realize that, you get very fucking clear and very conscious about the things you focus on. I break my life into 4 quadrants: health, wealth, love, and fulfillment. You may have heard me speak about it on other podcasts. It's the best decision I ever made, because I can come back and quantify what part of my life needs improvement, and I own everything. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. I own it. All the best things that I have, I've owned it. All the fucking terrible things that I've done or have seen or have experienced or lived through, I own it. It happened to me. So what? Am I going to be a victim and let it fucking beat me? That's a choice. That is a fucking choice. All the shitty things you've lived through, the crappy jobs, the abuse, the fucking terrible things that have happened. It's a choice how you choose to respond to them. Yes, you can be the victim and you can be the 99% and woe is me through the rest of your life, and you still end up in the same fucking place. Own that. Choose to see it a different way and choose not to let it define you. By all means, use the fire, use the fuel, and make sure that it makes you a better version of you, but don't let it beat you. Don't let it dictate where you go. Don't let other people's opinions dictate your reality. Don't let your own story dictate how you should think. You don't need to believe everything you think. Start consuming the right information. Start reading the right books. Start listening to the proper podcasts. Start surrounding yourself with the right people who are helping you become a better version of you and moving you forward. if you do that, I guarantee for 95% of you, your mental health issues will clear up, because it's what happens. I'm speaking as someone that came out the other side, and this whole entire answer, I think, was just speaking to me, and I needed to hear this. So I don't know if it helps, but it's what I needed to hear. And that's my thought process. So in terms of positive link between mental health and exercise, yeah, definitely. But exercise is a tool in the toolkit. You need to have a range of mental lattices that you can tie together that all support you. But that comes down with knowing what makes you happy, knowing what makes you unhappy or miserable, and doing more of the things that make you happy, surrounding yourself with more people that lift you and make you happy, and surrounding yourself with less people who make you unhappy and doing things that make you unhappy. And it's very clear. There's, again, the question I come back, and I've got questions in my phone that I regularly come back to and answer. And I ask myself, this job, this relationship, this lifestyle, if this was the only job that I got for the rest of my life, would I do it? If this was the only relationship that I could be in for the rest of my life, would I be happy? If this was the only environment that I got to be around until the day I died, would that make me feel that I've lived my life the way I was supposed to live it? If the answer is no, it makes it very, very clear on what you need to do. If the answer is yes, then it's process, it's journey, and you're on the right path. Your ladder's against the right wall. Your internal compass is facing in the right direction. When you get clear on that, it makes it very, very easy. And remember, smart people have great answers. Geniuses have great questions. And I'm not saying that because a mentor once said it to me. I'm not saying it because I'm a genius with great questions. But realize it's not your answers that define you. It's the questions you ask of yourself. And you need to come back to those questions regularly if you struggle with mental health, and if you struggle with the way you feel about yourself or the way the world is, and you struggle with that, you need to ask better questions, because you'll see different things. For me, it's what supports me. It's how I decide a relationship that I'm in. It's how I decide how I got into this career path. I was asked the question, if this is what I got to do for the rest of my life, would I be happy? And the answer is a hell yes. And that's why I do it. And that serves me, so I keep it. But just ask those better questions. Own it. Don't be a victim. And hopefully that helps. Got a little bit heated on that last question. Just mental health is something that I've spoken about previously. And I wanted to flesh it a little bit out on the podcast. I know some of you are long-time listeners, so you know the struggles that I've had to deal with myself, and building calluses on my mind to try and become a stronger version of me, and basically just passing on my message, because I'm aware that people that are going through the struggles right now, hearing about somebody that has been perceived or subjectively looks like they're out the other side, can help serve as a catalyst for people taking ownership of what they need to own. I know for me, it was consuming different people that had been through similar struggles that allowed me to kickstart, fuck this, I'm not being a victim anymore. I'm going to choose to see the world a different way. So ended on a pretty heated note, but again, pass it on. If you got value, or you know someone that may get value from it, again, I never know with those ones. A lot of these are epic questions like that. I just kind of talk and have no direction where it's going to go, and they end up just being conversations to a younger self. So again, if you know someone in that has issues with it, by all means pass it on. Maybe don't. If you're like, shit, they don't need to hear that, maybe don't pass it on. But yeah, I'll let you make a judgment call on that one. So hopefully you got a lot of value. Range of things covered today, working from being sick to sleep supplements to mental health, to the protein from intake of powders. So a bit of a variation again today. So a massive thank you for listening. If you've left a review on iTunes, I officially love you already. If you haven't, please do that, or I'll never speak to you again. That's not true, I'll totally speak to you again, but please leave a review on iTunes. And thank you so much for everyone that has been tagging on Instagram, on their stories or on their posts. I try and get back to as many of those as I can, but it's so awesome to see, because it's bringing so many people into the ecosystem of the podcast. So I just want to say a massive thank you for that. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you all next week.